Hey Jan, I wanted to just record a quick video here to show you how the integration between Leadpages and Infusionsoft works. And I thought, hey, this is a question I've heard before, so why don't we make a recording in case I have to answer this question in the future. So I'm logged into one of my Leadpages accounts here. I think you probably know I do a little bit of work with the African Leadership University, so this is actually their account. But let's go ahead and take a look at one of these Leadpages. You can see these are all drag and drop Leadpages. So Leadpages has two different builders, right? You can use the standard builder or you can use the drag and drop builder. So this is the drag and drop builder, and that's important because the two pages integrate with Infusionsoft just a little bit differently. So before I jump into this page here, I want to call out that from your name, you should be able to drop down and there should be an integrations section. So the integration section is where you'll go when you want to connect Leadpages to Infusionsoft or anything else that you might be connecting it to. So you'll see a list here of all of the native integrations that they work with, and right there I've got Infusionsoft and mine says connected because I've already gone ahead and done that as far as linking the two accounts together. So let's go back to our Leadpages list and we will click into one of these and I'll show you how the integration works. Okay, so let's open up the ALU Rwanda Learn More landing page. Okay, so you can see I've got one lead capture here. If we scroll down the page a little bit, we've got a button where they can click to learn more, and then down toward the bottom, we've got the same lead capture a second time. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these. When you click on that particular lead capture, it's going to load it over here on the side. Now the default integration that it starts with is lead notifications, but you can add a second integration, and once you have linked Infusionsoft to this account, you should be able to select Infusionsoft as one of the choices right from here. And then once you've selected Infusionsoft, you can draw from the different forms that are in your Infusionsoft application. So you can choose which form you want it integrated with. And you can see we've got the ALU Rwanda undergraduate lead capture form. So we've selected that form. And if you don't see the form that you have just created, it's possible that it just hasn't synced with Leadpages yet. And you can use this refresh list in order to find it and then go subsequently select it. Once you click done, it should automatically pull in the information from that form. So it should find the form in Infusionsoft and say, all right, cool, these are the fields that you're capturing. So for us, it's first name, last name, email, and phone number. And then we also have country of residence, and then we have a radio option for them to choose if they're a prospect, if they're a parent of a prospect, or something else. So let me show you this inside Infusionsoft just so we can see how the two of these link together. And it's actually this transfer leads campaign. It's a long story, but we're basically capturing leads from Leadpages into this account and then transferring them to a different account because we have two Infusionsoft licenses, one for our undergraduate school and one for our MBA program. So this is the form. And when we open the form, you're going to see first name, last name, email, phone, country of residence, and then this here is a radio option. You can see the radio choices there. So just by selecting this form, ALU Rwanda undergraduate lead capture, it knows to pull in those fields. It does that. That's part of the built-in integration. But here's the key. When this form is submitted, it's actually posting the information to this Infusionsoft form. That's why I don't need to bother designing this or giving it a fancy button or a background or border or any of that stuff, because the lead page is acting as the lead capture, and then it's just submitting the information over to Infusionsoft and submitting this form on behalf of Leadpages, or rather on behalf of the customer who's submitting it. So in order to make that happen, it has to use a couple of other variables from Infusionsoft to tell it which form. So those variables are the XID number from that form, the name of the form, and then the Infusionsoft version. So 1.60.0.30, okay? And you don't have to do anything with that information. You don't have to find it. That should happen automatically, okay? And that information is actually coming from the code of this form. So if we look at the HTML unstyled code here, you'll see this is the XID number. This is the version number 1.60.0, and it's actually a new version. This is where it's been upgraded since we first created this. And then this is the form name, ALU Rwanda Undergraduate Lead Capture. So like I said, that information is being extracted from the code of this form, and Leadpages is using it as hidden fields on their form so that when somebody submits it, Infusionsoft knows, hey, this was a form submission that gets tied to this particular form, and that's how they are able to trigger campaigns and therefore achieve this goal. So that's all happening in the background. You shouldn't have to do anything. That should just happen. But if you need to double check it, I thought it might be helpful to understand where that information is coming from and why that's important. Let's see. Occasionally, I'll add fields to a form, right? I'll come back in and decide, hey, I need to capture some additional information. And sometimes Leadpages recognizes that right away and pulls the information in. But sometimes the form doesn't update itself, and so you might need to click this Add a Field button. If you know that your Infusionsoft form has 5 or 6 fields that you're capturing information, but the lead page only has 3 or 4, you can click this Add a Field button, and it'll look for any other integration-supported fields from your form that you can then add, and of course you can use these arrows to move these fields around and control the order that they're displayed on this form. So this is all pretty straightforward, I hope, and I hope it makes sense. There shouldn't be a whole lot of heavy lifting on your part. As soon as you integrate the two, it should find the information it needs to work. It does ignore, I should call out, it ignores the thank you page you have set up in Infusionsoft. So you don't have to worry about what this page looks like or what you've got on this page. That's just our default there. Because Leadpages itself says, hey, we're going to send them to a default Leadpages thank you page, a different URL, remain on page, or I've built a lead page thank you page. So just a page in Leadpages that matches the branding of this and doesn't have any other forms, but kind of has the next action steps for that. So then we can click Save and Close Form. And it works the same for the form down here at the bottom. That's going to be identical. And it works nearly identical for this lead box. So if you're integrating with a button, right, and I just, use the widget and drag out a button, you have the choice of making that a link. And once you make it a link, you get to choose if you want it to be an external URL or if you want it to integrate with a lead box. And so I've gone ahead and selected a lead box. And the same thing that you would expect with the form is you choose your integration. You select the form that, from Infusionsoft as part of that. So on this integrations list, we're selecting the ALU Rwanda Undergraduate Lead Capture. So that's the exact same form that we were using for the embedded form. We're just using it for the lead box now. So it finds the exact same fields. I can, again, reorder them if I decided to change their order. The optional fields you can remove, but the required fields, you obviously have a lock on them, so those have to stay. And the hidden fields are there as well. You can see they're pulling in the Infusionsoft XID number, ACA89. That was the XID number for this form. And the form name, there's the form name, and then the Infusionsoft version number as well. So those are all being automatically populated, and then they're part of these hidden fields so that when this is submitted, Infusionsoft knows which form it represents. And then the thank you page is right there. And let's go ahead and click Save and Close Form. So that's it for the drag and drop page and the integration, right? That's how it works when you're integrating with a drag and drop form. Is I've added and I forget, there it is. I've added the form widget here, and I've added the form widget at the bottom, and I've selected the Infusionsoft form. And then for good measure, we've added a button, and we've integrated with the Infusionsoft form through a lead box that pops out when you click that button. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to our list here. And I'm gonna pause for a moment while I switch to my Monkeypod account, and I'm gonna show you how the integration works with the standard builder in Infusionsoft. Okay, so here we are. You can see that I've transitioned to a different Leadpages account, and I've got a couple of standard style pages. So these don't say drag and drop, these are actually standard builder pages. So let's go ahead and open one of those. And these are really simple. The drag and drop builder allows you to create a lot more robust and flexible pages. The standard builder really just gives you some templates that you can swap out a few elements to create your own lead captures. Pretty pleased with what I've been able to create with both, but the tools really just serve different purposes. Okay, so here is my lead page, and you can see that the builder is obviously totally different than it was with the drag and drop builder. You don't have the same widgets and elements over here. You pretty much can just control the content and style, but what's on the page is basically what you're allowed to work with. So the button here, I'm game. Let's go ahead and click on that, and it brings out our pop-out, and then you can see on the left we've got integration settings. Okay, so it's talking about the form over there, and you're going to choose from your drop-down. You can obviously use the default, which is lead notifications, and just have it notify you, or you can choose Infusionsoft, right? And then once you've selected Infusionsoft, you'll be able to choose from your Infusionsoft forms. And again, if you create a form and you're not seeing it on this list, you can press reload to kind of have it check for new forms and figure out what might be missing from this list. I've got LP app audit checklist request, or requested maybe. And then over here, you can see this is the corresponding campaign in Infusionsoft. This is LP app audit checklist request. And again, I didn't do any design elements for this form. It's just got first name and email. It doesn't matter that there's a graphic here. The footer doesn't matter as well. And that's it. So it pulls in first name and email. You build the button here. So we've got a deal. Obviously is different than the submit button that I've got there. And then we can just click OK. Now here's a difference. For the standard builder, which is what we're looking at, the thank you page, you can use the default thank you page, or if you leave it, it will use, I believe, your thank you page from Infusionsoft, so whatever you've built here. So thanks for requesting the application audit checklist, blah, 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 blah. I used this for a while, and then eventually I built a thank you page on my own website, actually by using Leadpages, and I decided to send them there. So I'm using this URL as my thank you page. Go ahead and click OK on that. And that looks something like this. Let's see if it loads for us. There. So thanks for requesting the app audit checklist. We'll send that right over. Invite your friends to check it out too. Share this, etc. So rather than having them see a default page or even the thank you page that Infusionsoft allows me to create, I thought this was a better solution and gives them some options for sharing it with their network and their community. Okay, so you can add style or a header or change some of the images and graphics here, but the integration part, that's how you're going to select the Infusionsoft form that you wanted to select or connect with, and it'll automatically draw in the different fields that you're collecting there. And then of course you get to choose your thank you page, either Infusionsoft's thank you page or a custom one you've built or a different domain altogether. And then down here you've got the form fields. So if there are some fields you want to exclude and they're optional, you can uncheck them. You can also add hidden fields. So it's by default including the XID number, the name, and the version, because those are the variables that it needs to pair it with the right form in Infusionsoft. So those are being included by default, but you could exclude those, and this is, again, a little bit more advanced. I don't imagine you're going to want to make too many changes to that, but as far as understanding how it connects, that is the answer for you. So let's go ahead and back out of this form, and to wrap this video up, Leadpages is a pretty popular tool. I know a lot of people who have recently been using ClickFunnels or actually any other number of tools that are out there. I've kind of stuck with Leadpages because it is the first tool that I worked with. And it's kind of silly that that's the reason, but that is the reason, is that I've had it for a long time, and I've got a lot of my stuff built in here, and I just don't look forward to migrating to something else. But for my purposes, I'm pleased with the outcome. I wouldn't say I've loved the process of building these pages. The drag and drop builder, I think, is a little clunky, and so I've definitely had some frustrations with just using it as a customer. But for the most part, I'm pleased with the outcomes it's created, and certainly pleased enough to stick with it rather than transition to a new solution. So the beauty of those integrations that I demonstrated is that they both act as a Infusionsoft form submission. So even though it's not an Infusionsoft form and it is a Leadpages form, I find that it's really helpful that it submits the form in Infusionsoft, because that gives you the ability to trigger whatever automation you'd like. It creates the contact record, it'll automatically tag them, it'll trigger off your campaigns, right? So it acts as if it's an Infusionsoft goal, and you don't have to work with the constraints that the Infusionsoft landing page or web form builder offer, because now you've got a more flexible builder like the Leadpages tool. So hope that helps, Jan. If you have any follow-up questions, or for anyone else watching this, if you have questions about your specific use case or scenarios, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. Cheers.